Hi, everyone. It's Mike Miller, the Development Manager for Attain Technology. And today we're going to do a special Ask Me Anything edition of this webinar. And basically, I had a lot of questions submitted to me, and I've kind of organized those questions into just really a couple of questions that I think that we need to ask Bob, since he's the expert on IT and managed IT services. So really, Bob, the questions start basic and are really about, like, what is managed IT services? What can it do for us? So let's start with, what is a managed service provider, and why would I need one?
Okay, so in a simple terms, managed service provider is basically an outside sourced IT department, an IT department that acts as if they work for you and has your best interests at heart. So when I say that, we offer the IT consulting that an on-premise CIO would offer you, right? Just in case you don't know what CIO is, Chief Information Officer, as well as we put in the pieces and spots to make you guys productive and secure, and basically provide your help desk, so give you end user support. We provide network updates and patching, systems patching, server management. Basically it's an outsourced IT package for IT that we provide for small businesses. And the reason why we do this, and the reason why it works so well, is for you to get yourself a managed service provider services for your own company would be hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And we can provide it at a fraction of the cost because we do it over many people.
Okay, I see. So instead of having to build a team of experts, they can outsource that task to you.
Correct, because we already have the team assembled, and we
Okay.
provide a one-to-many service. So yes, this service is specifically for you, and we will give you the customized service. But the way it's made affordable is that we provide that services to other clients as well.
Okay. So what are the services, right? So what are the options available? What are the services that you provide?
So some of the services that we provide, first of all, we provide full help desk service. So 8x5 help desk service with 24/7 monitoring and support. So we monitor all your servers if they go down at 3 o'clock in the morning. A common one is your internet provider will do maintenance, and it'll go down at 3 o'clock in the morning. One of our techs is calling that internet service provider to make sure it's not an extended outage, right?
Okay.
We monitor your servers. If one goes down in the middle of the night, we'll ask you, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to call you at 3 a.m.? Or are you going to give us a key to your facility? We'll act as your IT department. We have clients that we just go in, and if there's a productivity issue with the server, we'll go in at 3 a.m. in the morning, start working on a problem. If it looks like there's going to be a productivity issue, by the time you get in the morning, we'll give you a call and let you know, but we'll get working on it as soon as possible. Really, we're monitoring and managing your servers so that we know what's going on at any given time. Power outages and stuff like that, we're notified. We let clients know, hey, by the way, there's no power at your office. Saved a couple of our clients some money this winter when they had power outages. We called the power company for them. The power company told us it was going to be a 6-hour outage. We called them right away at 5 o'clock in the morning. They called all their staff, told them not to come in. So they saved that money. So it's not just IT services, it's providing the full range of services as if I work for you, right? So if I work directly for you, I'd be calling you, say, hey, just let you know the servers are out, there's been no power. We do the same things, right? We provide security. So we provide all of the security software that we feel is current in the industry, and we're often changing that because the threats keep changing. So we're doing that. Backup and disaster recovery planning, email threat protection, basically any IT service you need, hardware, software, or IT planning, right? And we look at your situation. We don't just come up with a boilerplate and say, oh, this is how you're going to do IT, right? Because that'd be easy for us, but you have specialty needs in your industry, and we want to make sure that we meet your needs. Our goal is to provide productivity increases in your industry, and not just IT services, because anybody can provide IT services. It's the productivity increases that make you more competitive, hence gets you more clients, makes you hire more people, and hence we grow with you.
Okay. Okay. So, help desk services, management and monitoring, security, and basically being a partner to help with the productivity increases and performance increases.
That's a great summary, Mike.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So, is this for every business, or are there certain businesses that utilize a MSP versus others, or what stage in a business's growth would
Um,
they?
Great question, Mike. One of the things that we do is that we do have a minimum, unfortunately, because it doesn't make sense for us to provide these services for companies less than 10 people.
Okay.
It's just not economically feasible for us. We'd have to charge you way too much. So we have a 10-person minimum. However, we do have clients that have less than 10 people that pay the 10-person minimum, and it's their choice. And also, we also scale up. So one of our scale up options is that we can go to co-managed IT, which is a little bit different story. So it's a managed service provider, but we provide it on the network infrastructure and the server aspect, and then they have an in-house IT person, right? And that in-house IT person handles the day-to-day issues. And then when they get to an issue that's above their level or something that they don't have time to handle, then they escalate that to us. And
Okay.
we charge them a flat fee for the network management monitoring, and then we charge them a per hour rate for the additional IT services. And then as well, we could do a co-managed IT, all managed by us, and we do that for a client now, where we put a person on staff at your site, and we do the whole kit and caboodle, and basically we do that managed services. And typically those end up being, 100, 150, 200 person clients that we put a person on site.
Okay. Okay. So initially, then I would have to a small business, right, would have to handle their own security, or but once they reach a certain threshold, then you can help them. So after they have 10 employees, and then into the enterprise level. So like, let's say large companies who have teams and a CIO, you can assist them with the monitoring and the management, the help desk services, and any critical, like, late night issues that they might have.
Right, we could be supplemental management and monitoring for them, yes.
Okay. Okay. And what, like, what problems would I generally have, or what are the problems that you typically help your clients with?
Well, typically when we first bring in our client, we find that their systems are not well documented. So that's usually one of our first things, is we check to make sure that they're well documented. In that documentation and doing that, we find a way, find other problems that are in their issues. And one of the things we're commonly finding is how insecure clients are. And we're putting together a webinar basically for cybersecurity audits. And, basically we find things like insecure password policies, people not being trained, inadequate backup and disaster recovery. And that's really one of the biggest focuses on our industry. The governments are getting involved. The hackers are getting more cunning. So we need to step up our game and make sure that all of our clients are protected. And even if you set up an appointment with me, I'm not going to abandon you. If I notice that there's a security issue, we will go above and beyond to try to help you. To give you an example of that story, we have a client, potential client, which is a church, and they really don't have the budget for our services. But during the investigation process, we found that they had some really questionable security, and they have a security issue. So we're going to help them out with that. So we're going to help them out with that project, and we're going to find a way that we can work with them, because I really feel like do the right thing is one of our company values, and make sure that we can do those for those people. So.
Oh, that's really nice. Okay. So basically, the things that you would help people with is keeping their business secure, right? And making sure that they have the tools and that they need to do their job. And also that their network and computers are, not only safe, but that they have uptime, right? So they're able to work
Yes,
consistently.
yes, uptime is critical, especially production uptime. So
Uh-huh.
trying to handle most of the maintenances and during non-productivity hours, as well as if there is an outage, to get them back up and running as quickly as possible. That sort of brings me into our backup and disaster recovery. We put in a premium product for our backup and disaster recovery product to make sure that we can get our clients back up and running as quickly as possible. So, we can get you up as in little as an hour to a few hours, depending on the situation, even if you were ransomware or you had a server down. If you lost your whole facility, we could still get you up in a reasonably framework of time, because we can boot the servers up virtually in the cloud. We might need to do some more work, but we can get you up and running. We can get you in contact with your data so you can still service your clients and still keep your bottom line coming in. And then we will work with our clients to make sure that they have a good backup and disaster recovery plan, so that when one of these things happen, right, we already know what everybody's going to do. We know that the president of the company is going to go and find real estate somewhere to get us temporary. The facilities manager is going to go get tables and chairs, and Attain Technology is going to start hitting its vendors to get equipment on site so people have equipment to work with. And we're going to get those virtual connections and the virtual servers back up and running, so you guys can stay productive and start servicing your clients, start maintaining that bottom line, so that it becomes a blip on your radar as opposed to a media creator is our goal.
Yes. So basically what you're doing is you're just smoothing over the problem of like, if someone had ransomware, you're allowing them to continue business operations without suffering, even though they're kind of like behind the scenes suffering from this massive impact. You're able to fix it, but they're still able to continue their business operations, correct?
That's basically it. So we're able to bring it up virtually. So in the case of ransomware is a great example. We would vet the backup. We would see if the backup's contaminated, clean that backup, and then we boot the server up virtually. It'd be like you weren't down. So probably an hour or two, maybe 3 hours to vet that server image, bring it up. Now your people are working. I'll give you a story. We had a client that had a server failure, and we brought it up virtually. And there was a mistake on our side. We've hence fixed this, but the tech forgot to notify the client. 3 weeks later, I'm calling the client saying, hey, by the way, we had this incident 3 weeks ago, and your server failed, and we brought you up virtually. You've been running virtually since. Oh, we didn't even know we were running virtually when we got the new server in place and everything was good to go. So,
Wow.
So that's how good the backup is that our client didn't even know.
Wow, that's fantastic. Since you're talking about ransomware, like how important is ransomware? Should I be concerned as a business owner? Should I be concerned about ransomware, or is that something that happens to General Motors or the government?
I think for business today, ransomware is the number one single threat that business owners should worry about, because A, it can happen to anybody, and B, they don't care, right? Even your competition is no match for ransomware. In essence, if you're not prepared and you don't have a good disaster recovery plan in place, it could cripple your business for 3 weeks to 6 weeks to 12 weeks or forever, right? So think about this. If you came in and your company was ransomware, and then you called your IT guy and says, hey, I need my backups. And he says, well, the backups are encrypted. I can't get it back. And the ransomware people want, $1 million. What are you going to do, right? You can't, I couldn't afford $1 million. So your data is encrypted. They're not giving it back to you. You have no way to recover it. So basically what you have the choice of is, if you have any paper left, because nobody has any paper left, you could recreate everything from paper. Otherwise, you're going to recreate everything from everybody's heads and just think about what we're going to miss, right? And how do we
Yeah.
continue to service our client? How do we know where we're at? And that's probably the biggest struggle. And so ransomware is the #1 biggest threat. As far as disaster recovery and continuity planning, that's the #1 threat. You might have a fire, maybe 1 in 100 organizations will have a fire through their whole lifetime, but I can guarantee you about 1 in 10 organizations get hit by ransomware. The
Wow.
numbers are huge. About 10% of companies get hit by ransomware at least once in their lifetime. So,
Wow.
and that's exponentiating. So from 2020 to 2021 during COVID, there was a 700% increase in ransomware. So
700 is outrageous. I can't believe that it's that, prevalent.
well, think about it. So the hackers are taking advantage of a few things. First of all, they're taking advantage of automating. They're automating this so it happens automatically, right? So they'll compromise 1,000 computers, and then they'll get those 1,000 computers to work for them to find the low-hanging fruit to encrypt and ransomware, right? So they do that, and then it's also ransomware as a business. So I'm sure you've heard of ReEvil, which is one of those hacker groups in Russia. What they do is they resell the services. So they'll give you all the tools you need. Let's say Mike wanted to become a ransomware guy today, right? They would give him all the tools, and they'll teach him how to infect people. And then when he gets somebody infected, right, they'll collect the payment and pay Mike a certain percentage. So it's ransomware as a service. So now they're getting thousands of people to do the work for them. And they don't mind paying Mike his percentage because they get the other percentage and they don't have to do the work. So it is the #1 threat. It's something that you need to be prevalent on. We are definitely heavy on the security end. And if a client chooses not to opt in for the security, we might most likely walk away, because, in the end of the day, if a client gets ransomware, we have to fight that battle. And it is stressful for us, and I can't imagine it's stressful for the owners. And we don't want to put people in that position, and we don't want to be in that position ourselves.
Right. So because it seems like that, you partner with your clients and you serve them through their IT needs, and protecting that data seems like one of the most important jobs.
Well, you think about it, in a company, what's important? It's the data. It's how we service our clients, right? It's how we generate revenue. If we stop those two things, which if we get rid of the data, we stop those two things, basically we have a defunct company. Most companies that are hit with a ransomware attack that aren't well prepared go bankrupt within 6 to 8 months.
Wow. Wow. And when you say data, you mean like accounts receivable, accounts payable, blueprints, emails, all your documentation, your processes, everything.
How about where you're at in a project? How about the work in process spreadsheets? It's especially for a construction company, that's a very complex job, right? How do you know what, in construction, you bill out based on progress of the job, right? How do you know when you sent them a last invoice, right? Now you're going to have to re-replicate that. And some of your contracts will work with you to fix those issues on your side. Someone will tell you to figure it out and bill them, based on the AIA schedule. Well, if you don't have access to the AIA schedule, and then, all of your punch lists and where you're at with the job and all of that information, you now don't have access to, but you still have to produce. Otherwise, some contracts have liquidated damages. Some contracts, vendors, if you slow down, they will supplement you and start taking over the job for you, and then they'll bill you for the supplement, because you are ultimately still responsible for the contract. So it's our job as IT people to keep you as productive as possible and with as much uptime as possible, so that you don't end up putting yourself in that position.
Okay. So, let's say I've hired you. How do I know that my data is backed up, how do I know it's safe? Because you had mentioned that, other MSPs say, oh, well, we can't access the backups, it's encrypted.
So we use a product called Data, which is a
Okay.
very robust system. And so what we do is we install the Data system. It backs up to an appliance that's on site, right? We've put security on that appliance so that you can't log into that appliance locally. You have to go to the Data cloud to be able to log into that appliance. So that's number one, to prevent the hackers from encrypting that data on that appliance. Also on that appliance is ransomware detection. So if it backs up a server, it notices an indication of ransomware, it will immediately notify us, and we will take a look at that remediation as well. And it has the ability to virtualize that server right on the appliance. So let's say your physical server got encrypted, we could boot that right up on the virtual appliance. Then it offsites that to a data center, and then that data center is prevented from deleting for 30 days, right? So worst case to worst, we would get you back up to the last offsite backup, which is most likely the evening before, because it goes to the evening before. So 1 or 2 days worth of data and not all of your data. And we could virtualize that in the cloud, or ask Data to put it on an appliance and send it to us so we could virtualize it on site. So then after it goes to that data center, Data replicates it off to a second data center, I believe in Colorado or California. And then that's delayed for delete for 60 days. So there's all of these chains in the process that prevents it from becoming unrecoverable. And that's the goal, right?
Okay. So basically from what you're saying is that if a hacker got in and deleted or put ransomware on their computer and encrypted their on-site backup, the data still has a backup at one location, and then another backup at another location on the other side of the country.
That is correct.
Okay, so that if you're in New England and Dato's in New England, right? I think
They are in Connecticut, yep.
Okay, so let's say a tidal wave took out all of the East Coast.
Then we could virtualize them in California or Chicago or Colorado.
Wow. Okay, so you could still access your data.
Correct.
That's incredible. That's amazing. So basically, that their data is backed up and safe because you're using the Premier tool, the Premier appliance too, or service that backs up their data.
Yeah. So Mike, this is a topic that I'm pretty passionate about. And the reason I'm passionate about this topic is because it took a while for Data to sell me on that product. And I'll tell you though, the difference is that I sleep at night now, right? So before Data, when I used to have a server failure or potential data loss, the first thing I would do is call a tech and say, hey, check the backups, make sure they were good, because up till Data, backups were unreliable. It would be iffy whether the data was actually replicated offsite, a bunch of stories. And, going back to the tape days, tape was completely unreliable. So I would always worry about the backup data, but with Data, there's a couple things that happen that allow me to say, okay, they're protected by Data, they're a Data customer. I don't need to worry about that. First of all, we check those backups on a daily basis. We make sure they're backing up and we remediate them. The virtual servers automatically boot themselves every evening to make sure that they're up and functional. And if they're not, then we remediate them. So we got a really close eye on those backups. So I no longer worry when a client has an outage, because I know that we can recover those from the Data cloud backup. And the Data support is second to none. So if we're having any trouble, we know we have them as a good backstop.
Wow, that's great. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it would be extremely stressful to constantly worry about because tape was so unreliable, and there are other ways to back up now, but to constantly be worrying if you have all of the data and enough redundant backups in order to make sure that you could put it back together if you had to.
Mhm.
And now you can trust that because data is there and proving every day that they have that backup.
One of the things I like to tell prospects when I go in to meet with them, I says, okay, let's do this. Let's turn off your computer. Let's call your IT guy right now and say, hey, we just been ransomware and they encrypted the on-site backups. What do we do now? And how long is it going to take us to get back up and running, right? And it's amazing. Some of the people say 10 hours. Some of the people say, well, the on-site's all we have. And if that's gone, we're going to have to pay the ransom. And then I say something like, okay, the ransom's $40,000, and their jaw drops. And pretty soon as I say all of those things, if they didn't have a good backup and disaster recovery plan, usually a dado's in there as soon as I can get one into the facility. So
Yeah, I'll bet. So let me ask you, before we end this real fast, what happens when someone's hacked? How do you know? How do, like, so I'm a business owner and I get hacked. Will I even know it?
So sometimes, that's actually a great question, because you could be hacked right now and not even know it. There could be somebody sitting on your network with a foothold on your network and you not even have a clue that it's happening. There's certain telltale signs that we look for to see, and we have applications that look for those signs for us. Huntress is one of those utilities. And then we use a next gen AV that looks for patterns in behavior and not actually a signature or a file. And in looking and changing that paradigm, it allows us to have a better insight into that community, into that software, and to figure out what's going on. Huntress Labs Huntress Labs was developed by a CIA analyst. Basically what they've done is they look for the patterns, behaviors, and the tools that the hackers use to compromise systems. And we've run those on prospect systems and found those footholds and says, hey, by the way, you're hacked, right? And we're able to notify them so that they could remediate that right away, even before they were hacked. So you might not even know, because what hackers are doing today is they're sitting on your system probably 3 to 6 months, and they're collecting social security numbers, date of births, addresses, credit cards, all of that information they can sell off on the dark web. And once they feel like they've exhausted that and they're looking for invoices and stuff to do social engineering to get you to ACH your money, then once they're all done with that, and they figure that there's nothing else that they can get that system to pay, then they'll ransomware you to get their final biggest payday. So it's all about a tiered approach with them. It's just like a business. These people are renting floors of offices in India and Russia. Like, it's amazing. They'll have 3 or 4 floors of people working in business, and it's just like a regular business, except what they are is they're illegal hackers, right?
Wow. So like, if you got ransomware and you paid it, can you trust that they'll fix you? Like,
so 2 things there. A,
okay.
you can't trust that they'll always send you the decryption key. And also, the decryption key is a piece of software. Are you reinfecting your machines when you rerun that piece of software? That's the question, right? So if you were to pay for the key, it's going to be a very long and laborious process, because we're going to have to recover the data and then rescan the data and make sure that there's no more footholds on the network. So, because what they'll do is they'll encrypt you today, and then in 6 months, they'll encrypt you again. They're hitting the same targets over and over again, right? So you got to be smarter than the hacker, unfortunately.
Okay. So, as a business owner, I probably wouldn't know that I was hacked. If you were if I hired you as my managed IT service provider, would you know that I was hacked?
There's a good chance we would know you were hacked, but there's 0-day exploits every day. So it's really about, there's about being protected and putting the utilities in there to detect these guys. But there's a 0 day. So recently there's been 3 0 days in the market that they've injected code into people's systems that people didn't know, right?
Okay.
Companies didn't know. And so the companies didn't even know they were hacked. And these are big multinational companies that fall victim to cybercrime, just like the JB meat packing industry, the Massachusetts Steamship Authority, the government and cyber defense contractor that got hacked. So all of these entities, they throw millions of dollars worth of security and they didn't know they were hacked. But it's,
Wow.
but you know, the biggest part of the plan is having a great backup and disaster recovery and business continuity plan. And so you want to put the insurance, you want to do the detection up front, but you also want the insurance to make sure that you're covered in the backside.
Okay. Okay. So that makes sense. So even though, you know, you're there, you're watching it, you're protecting this business, you can still get blindsided by a 0 day exploit, as you're saying, correct?
Yeah, if anybody ever offers you 100, I can guarantee you 100% that you'll never be hacked. Walk away, run away as fast as you can, because there's no one on this planet right now that can offer that guarantee, unless you remove all your computers from every network, put them in a lead-lined room, and there's no access to those computers, not even by humans, because it's just not feasible.
Wow.
China was putting exploits in systems as they shipped them out of the country. So about 10 years ago, the US government went around to every office collecting every USB drive was in anybody's possession, because China was putting in a piece of software in the USB drives that replicated all the data off to China, right? And that's what they had noticed. And China's been up to this forever, and other foreign national governments. But you know, most companies don't worry about foreign national governments. They're not like the United States, where they have secrets to protect, except for civil defense contractors. But China will someday, or Russia will someday, perpetrate an attack on the United States, because that's where the first start of the next war will be, is in cyber, right? So the next time we're at war, cyber is definitely going to be a challenge, and they're going to try to hit our infrastructure and cripple our economy, and to make us beg for forgiveness. And you know, so we need to prepare ourselves to make sure that we're resilient, so we don't fall victim to that.
Yeah. Okay. And so, you know, you can be blindsided, but with a solid business continuity plan in place, you can remediate that. You can always fix it. You can always repair any damage that's been caused.
Well, as well as put the proper tools in place to detect attacks that you can possibly detect. Because, you know, I'll give you a good example. Huntress, 9 hours into the attack on Kaseya BSA, was already proactively blocking the attack for all of its customers, right? So they learned about the attack. They learned as much as they could. They put in a fix, and they blocked that attack for all of their customers, so that none of their customers that weren't exposed didn't get exposed any further, right?
Wow.
So it's really about putting the proper tools in place so that you can protect yourself as much as possible, because you know, it's prevention and then the cure. You really don't want to rely on just the backup and disaster recovery, because without good prevention, you're going to spend, you know, hundreds of hours a month recovering from all of these disasters, because you're not protected up front. So it is like a puzzle, and you have to put all the pieces in the right place to make sure that you're protected.
Okay. Well, that's amazing, and a great place to stop this webinar, because you've answered so many questions. I mean, this is this has been really informative and educational, and really appreciate it, because I think that gives everyone a really good idea of what's involved, just how complex it can be, and how necessary and vital it is that every business is protected. Because without the protection, you know, you could invest your life into your business, and then one day it just explodes because a hacker from Russia decided that it would be fun to mess with you.
Well, they don't think it's fun. They think it's profitable, Mike. It's all about money, right? So that's what makes
Yeah.
the world go round. There's only one difference between him and me is that he owns a business that's illegal and hurts people. And I own a business that is legal and helps people, right? So really two opposite ends of the spectrum, but it's a business to him as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, if you need help protecting your business, please reach out to us at Attain Technology. And really appreciate everyone for joining us here today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us.
All right. Thank you guys, and have a great day. And never pay the ransom. Make sure you're protected. Even if you don't choose Attain Technology, make sure you have a great business backup and disaster and business continuity plan. That's your greatest defense, and make sure you put in all level of protections that you need. And we'd be happy to help you if we could.
Sounds great. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.